The way that the challenge is going to work, we're going to go through our webinar, and during that we'll kind of show you some examples. We'll go over supplies, we'll go over different techniques, everything you need to know to partake in the challenge and make your own sculpture design and make it look awesome. So we'll go over that. And then when you're ready to make your sculpture, you can either go along with us during this webinar and sort of practice these techniques that we're going to show you, or you can do it later and work on it this next coming week. But the entries are due from May 11th through the 15th, so that's next week. And then you will tag, you can post your entry, post a photo of your sculpture on social media, and to enter it into the competition or into the showcase, you'll tag Sci-Tech, and you'll also tag, use a hashtag Sci-Tech Sculpture Challenge, which we'll post all that information at the end so that you have it written down. But that's basically how it'll work. So for next week, we'll have all different people entering their challenges. And then on May 16th and 17th, we'll be showing off and showcasing all the people who submitted their sculptures on the Sci-Tech social media. So that's just an overview of how that's going to work. But let's get into what the sculpture is going to be and what we're talking about when we mean sculpture design challenge.
All right, so like I said, Miss Libby and I are going to go over construction techniques. So that means ways that you can manipulate the paper, the cardboard, and I'm going to give you some ideas on what you could use around your house, how you can put them together, how you can fold and bend and all these slots. It's really cool. There's so many things you can do with fun paper. Whoops. All right. That's okay. Miss Libby's going to do the demonstration. I lost the kids for some reason. I can't see the kids anymore. But anyway, I guess they can still hear me. But she's going to show you the cardboard and paper techniques. She's going to run through a slideshow, and you guys will be emailed any of the slideshows that we showed today. She's going to go through those, and then she's going to concentrate on 5 or 6 ones that she's actually going to build live. My part is I'm going to show you some artists that can hopefully inspire you and show you some artworks that have been done by students in the past. So looks like Libby's ready to go, and we'll let her do her thing.
So yeah, and if you have any questions during this presentation or during the webinar, feel free to drop them in the chat, and Ms. Marquita will let us know, and we'll stop and answer those. And then of course we'll have time at the end for questions. And like Ms. Janet said, when we're going through this, you'll have access to this PowerPoint. So if you want to go back and look at any of the shapes, you'll be able to do that. So this is just a couple of examples of what we're talking about when we talk about paper sculpture. So these are two kind of similar, very like abstract sculptures, lots of fun color, lots of different cool shapes. But this is not what your sculpture has to look like by any means, right? It's totally up to you what your design is going to be and what you want it to look like. These are just a couple of fun examples from the internet, which is a great resource too when you're making your sculpture. If you're looking for some inspiration, that's a great resource as well. So here's a couple examples to keep in mind as we're going forward for the sculptures. So for supplies, we really want to encourage everybody to use as many recycled materials as you can. Whatever materials you have around the house is what is perfect for this challenge. So whatever paper supplies you have, it could be construction paper, cardstock, it could be newspaper, or like the advertisements that you get in the mail, or if you go through your recycling bin and find paper scraps. For cardboard, that could be like any boxes or paper towel rolls, cereal boxes, egg cartons. Again, anything that you have around the house, anything that you can upcycle or recycle, then that's what you should use. And it's great to take a recycled piece and make that a focus point in your sculpture. And I think we have someone added.
Daniela, it looks like.
Daniela. So, oh, sorry, go ahead, Janet.
And tell him he can have questions at the end. He's muted right now. I don't know if he can hear me.
Yeah, so we're muted right now, and any questions you can put in the chat or we'll go over at the end. So for supplies, yeah, any recycled material is great. That's totally, you know, get really creative with that, and that's a great opportunity to reuse something. You can use glue, you can use tape, again, whatever you have around the house to make those attachments and to, you know, hold down whatever you're going to be using is great. You can use paint, markers, anything like that to, you know, color your paper, color your cardboard, however you want to use that. And just really anything you want. So we want it to be very, you know, loose and open, and it's, you know, up to you what you want to do. So just get creative with it. But we encourage you, again, to use as many recycled materials as you can, and also to use some of these tools that we're going to be showing you in the webinar, and some of these structural concepts that we're going to be explaining to you guys. So again, it's very free and open, and it's an opportunity for you to just get as creative as you want to. So let's go over some of the actual building techniques that I'm going to show you guys. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different techniques. So let's just go one by one. Basically, the purpose of these techniques are to enhance your sculpture, to make the structure a little bit better, a little bit more solid, and to like bring your ideas to life, right? So you might have an idea of how you want things to look like, but an important part of this challenge is that the sculpture is 3D, right? And if we want paper to stand up on its own, that's not such an easy task, right? Because you can't just stand up a piece of paper and expect it to stay there, right? So these are a bunch of different ways that we can get that 3D effect and increase like the height and the texture of our sculpture through different building techniques. So in a little bit, I'll go over specifically how to do these. Okay, let's go on to the next one. These are 3D paper techniques, right? So these are all different techniques using paper, right? You may look at a piece of paper and think like it's flat, it's boring, but there's all kinds of cool, crazy stuff that you can do to it to enhance it and make it part of your sculpture. And we'll be going over a lot of these techniques as well. Probably a lot of you can kind of look at these and see how they're done. But for some of the more intricate ones, we'll be going over that. Okay, so let's actually start going over. I'm gonna go out of here and I'm gonna switch to my webcam so you guys can actually see specifically what I am doing. Here we go. Hello, where's my coffee? All right, so as you can see here, I've got my supplies. I've got magazine papers, little advertisements I got in the mail, again, whatever recycled materials. This is just like a cardboard box that I cut up. And then I've got my tape and my glue, my scissors. Again, it's totally up to you, and you should feel free to use whatever you want and just get really creative. Also have a couple examples that I can show you. So this is one that I made just as an example. Oops, let me see if I can actually show it to you. Here we go. So I bet you guys can kind of guess what I was going for here, right? Unlike the other ones that we saw, this one's a little less abstract. It's more like based off of something. And that's just another option that you have. Here's another example, kind of an incomplete. So I've got some of those fun techniques like the spiral, and then I've got like paper on my, covering my board and everything like that. I've got some slots here. So here's just some more examples that, you know, you can kind of see where we're going here with that. Okay, so let's go on to the actual techniques. So the first technique I'm going to show you guys is called a, oops, there we go. Where's the camera? Sorry, there we go. Some camera issues. There we go. This is called a flange. And you could, you know, call it whatever you want, but that's what I call it. So you take your paper. The purpose of this is to be able to stand our paper up like this, right? If we stand paper up like that, it's not really going to stand, is it? It needs some support. So in order to do that, we're going to just like cut some little slots at the bottom of our paper. If you wanted to, you could get a ruler and actually measure a line here. But I like to just kind of go with it, you know. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. It'll still work. But if you want it to be really perfect and perfectly symmetrical, then you can get your ruler out. So what we've done is created these little tabs, right? Awesome. Now that we have that, the paper has more structure. It has something to actually sit on. We've kind of given the paper like little like centipede legs that it can stand on, right? And then when we turn it over and glue these tabs down, our paper has a lot of structure, right? So we can glue or tape those tabs, and now our paper will stand. We can also bend the paper into cool shapes, right? So you could spell things out. You could loop them around. You could do whatever you want to do with that. Pretty cool. So that's a great way to make paper stand up. All right. This one, I'm going to show you two techniques in one, basically. So the flange technique we just learned, right? Now I'm going to show you how to make a tube. So I bet a lot of you have learned this before or could even figure it out on your own. All you do, right, take your piece of paper, cut it to whatever size that you want. You're going to wrap it around and roll it up just a little bit, right? And now we have our tube. So I'm going to tape this, and of course you could use a glue, but I'm just using tape for the sake of time. If I can actually get a piece of tape, here we go. I'm going to tape this so I can show you another technique that we need a tube to do. So we have our tube. In this case, we made our tube, but you could do this technique on like a cardboard tube, like a paper towel tube or something like that. We're going to use what we just learned when we did our little tabs on our flange. We're going to do the same thing to the bottom of this tube. So cut little tabs out of the tube. And again, you could be precise and measure this, but we're just going to go with it. And then you're just going to fold those tabs out. And the same thing, right? We're giving the tube like little legs to stand on so that it'll be more structurally sound. We're also giving like the glue a place to sit so that we can glue this to our base. And Miss Janet's going to teach you a really cool way to actually, or show you an example of how you can cover these little tabs up if you don't want them to show, but I think they look pretty fun. Okay, so that's just a couple of great techniques with paper. Let's switch to cardboard real quick. So let's say you want to make, add some more support to your structure or do another cool design. This is a technique that most people call tabs, right? So what you do, you cut a slot into your piece of cardboard and go about like halfway down, okay? Then you take another piece of cardboard, cut another slot, and again, you could be precise and grab a ruler and you know, make sure that these are like perfectly even and that they're in the perfect center, but I think it's better to just kind of go for it. And then we're gonna connect those two slots. So sometimes you have to give it a little wiggle. Whoops. There we go. Now we have this cool X shape that, there we go, can stand up on its own. And we could use that as a support to build off of. We could add to that, or you could leave it as it is and it looks very cool by itself. So that's a really great option and a really great way to kind of build some more structure. Okay, so let's go in for another paper technique. So this one's really easy. I bet you guys have done this just without even thinking about it before. This is a great way to make fringe on your paper. So fringe are like little like dangly bits that hang off paper or whatever else, clothing, whatever, it could be anything. So all you do is just cut some little pieces. You don't want to cut all the way, right? Because we're not trying to make strips. We're just trying to make these little pieces of fringe, okay? Now we have our fringe on here. And that's really cool, right? We really didn't do that much to the paper, but it's already adding a lot of texture and a lot of cool like design elements. So we could just tape that onto something, right? Or glue that onto something and leave it like that. That's already cool. But if we want to make it even cooler, we can curl the fringe. So you could do this before or after you actually cut it. I like to do it after though. So what I like to do is start wrapping my piece of paper around my pencil like so. And this is cardstock, so it's a little stiffer, but that's okay. We just wrap it up all the way around. There we go. And now when we uncurl this, we have this really cool piece of curled fringe, right? And we could put that on our thing. You could loop it around like we did with the tube and make a really cool tube like that. Awesome. So that's another great technique. And I'm gonna show you 2 more, okay? And then we're gonna move on to some other elements of this challenge. So there we go. So this is one of my favorites. I think this one is so fun to do. We're gonna make a swirl, and this is really easy. Once you've done it once, you're gonna wanna do it on everything. So all you do, I like to just cut out a circle first, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. It could also be like a triangle or really any shape that you want it to, right? Then we're gonna go in and you're gonna basically hold your paper with one hand and then cut in a spiral with the other hand. So I like to actually just like hold the scissors in place, like I'm doing here, you can see, and then move the paper with my hand. So the scissors are actually not really moving, it's just my hand turning the paper and I'm slowly cutting down with the scissors. I find that this technique makes a really nice even spiral and keeps it nice and symmetrical, speed it up a little bit. And you can do it as much or as little as you want. You can make a really nice long spiral like that. Boing, very cool. Easy, easy. All right.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun. Okay, so last technique, we're gonna switch back to cardboard. And again, if there's techniques that you saw in the PowerPoint that I haven't gone over and you're curious, you're gonna have access to that PowerPoint so you can go back and look at those and figure out how to do them yourself. So cardboard is really cool because it is corrugated, which means that there's like 2 layers or really 3 layers, right? There's the paper on either side and there's the part that is in between. So that's why cardboard is like nice and sturdy because it has those layers. And we can also use those layers to our advantage when we're cutting cardboard or when we're using it to build. So if you score your cardboard, that means that you're cutting one layer without going through all the way and cutting the whole piece. So you can kind of see if you bend cardboard, these lines start to form. And that's where that middle layer is, you know, bending or shaping. If you go pick one of those lines that you want to cut and use your scissors carefully, you cut just the first layer. So you're not digging in your scissors very deep. You're really not having to press very hard. Then you have this cool scoring effect, right? So now what we have is, like, let's say we wanted to make a wall. Now we have a way to glue down part of the cardboard and still maintain that wall. So we have a nice like 90-degree angle. And that's really, really helpful for building. If we wanted to score again, just write down another part very carefully with our scissors. Now we have another thing. We could make a little structure with that. We could score it one more time and make a box. So there's really a ton of options for scoring cardboard. And if you're gonna make anything with cardboard, that's a great way to use it. So, okay, so those are our techniques that we're gonna show you. Again, you'll have access to that PowerPoint. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out about those. But for now, I think that's good. We'll go ahead and move on to Janet, and she's gonna go over some more aspects and ways that you can enhance your sculpture.
All right, are you gonna spotlight me or do I need to do it?
Oh, we'll do it.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello. All right, so I'm going to share some information to help inspire you. And let's get rid of that. I'm going to share 2 artists with you. And this is David Smith, who's an American artist. And he does these really cool structures or sculptures using geometric forms, which are three-dimensional shapes. Shapes are two-dimensional, forms are three-dimensional. And he does these wonderful metal weldings. And I have a little tip in there. It says, did you know that he used to be a welder in a car factory? That's where he learned his skills. So here is one of his. If you've ever been to the Dallas Museum of Art, you can actually see one of his sculptures there in person. Once the museum is open, you can go over there and see what he's done. But you can see how he's put the forms together, and he wants to think about, you know, how it looks on all sides and how all the forms are working together. He doesn't have any colors, and that's okay. You could also make your sculpture all one color if you wanted to. This is a different artist. This is a French artist, and his name is Jean Dubuffet. And this is actually one of two sculptures that are in New York City, and I actually saw these sculptures. His work is very, very different. Can you see how his work is different from the other artists? Okay, so this one looks more like what you would see in nature, like flowers and leaves and trees. And these are actually very, very tall and big. And down at the bottom here, you can actually walk through these openings. One of these openings is about as tall as a person. So you can see how big these are. Do you notice the difference also in the colors and the lines that he used? I think Ms. Libby mentioned that you could add some color to your paper before you added it on. If you don't have any pattern paper at your house, that could be an option to put some designs on the blank paper or the flat paper before you start doing anything with it. This is another one of his that's also in New York. Very cool. Kind of reminds me of, what's it remind you of? I know you guys can't talk, but kind of look like mushrooms maybe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when you start designing your structure or your sculpture, you can be looking around and seeing what can inspire you. Are you into more geometric, or do you really like nature? Okay. So these are the supplies that Miss Libby mentioned, and I just kind of have a visual of it. Junk mail. Now, she mentioned cardboard. If you don't have a cardboard box around your house, you can go into your recycle bin and just pull out some boxes that TV dinners came in or microwave dinners came in. Those are great for building with. And then these are some sculptures. Okay, so keep in mind as you're creating your sculpture that it's three-dimensional. That means you're going to see all the way around it. So turn it as you're working and make sure there's something interesting going on all the way around. Oh, look, our friend's making a bracelet. Make sure all your parts fit together. You can see how these two kind of work together to kind of make one complete idea. This one's more colored paper, but the one at the top, do you notice how there's some other stuff on here that maybe is not paper? So Miss Libby mentioned going into your recycle bin. You've got yogurt containers. You've got, I'm sure you've got little applesauce containers. Make sure you wash them out real good. And this is popsicle sticks. There's some wire. This looks like maybe an old bottle. So you could add things like that to your structure too. Make sure your connections using glue and tape are strong, and I'm going to give you some tips on those in a minute. And then, like I said, just make sure you look around and find something interesting, maybe some old buttons. If mom or dad has a sewing box, go through it and see if there's some stuff they don't use anymore that you could add. And then these are the posters, and you're going to get these, that's PowerPoint, so you'll have these two posters that Miss Libby put together. And then these are some other ideas, and these were, I used to teach elementary school. So these are some artworks that actual kids at my school made. This one actually looks like something. Okay, can you, what does it look like to you? Yeah, just say it. It looks like a pig, right? But these are a little bit more abstract. So your sculpture can look like something, or it can just be abstract. That would just mean lines and shapes that you've put together. Be inventive, and I'm going to show you examples of these. It doesn't have to be a flat base. This one is actually a hat. Okay, you know, structures and sculptures can be used for just about anything. Anything that's three-dimensional is going to work. And this one is actually a cube. that the student has added designs onto. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and then I'm going to share, hopefully, my camera. Oops, let's hit share. And yay, so there's my camera. All right, so I have to look where my stuff is. All right, so one more thing. I know Miss Libby showed you how to roll the paper. So if you really, really want it to be curly, you can roll it around your pencil like this, really tight, and it makes a really cool little spiral like this. I always like doing that, okay? Papers, I've got some colored paper. This is like paper that you use for scrapbooking. So if you have somebody in your house that likes a scrapbook, you might have some heavier. You can see this is a little heavier. This is construction paper, just some scraps I had around my house. If you're going to build up, then you're going to need a base, something hard that you're going to glue everything to. And this is the base that I started with. So here's one that I was kind of working on. And you can see I've got curly paper here. And you can see how I did the tabs. But I didn't want the tabs to show on this one. Okay. So the way I did that is, let me grab a colored piece of paper. I had some paper towel tubes. I didn't use toilet paper tubes, but the paper towel tubes are great. And I traced around it. All right. And then I just kind of cut a fun shape that went all the way around. All right. And now you're thinking, okay, well, how can I get that hole cut out? Well, some people are going to want to poke their scissors, but you know, that's a good way to poke your hand. So if you fold it and make a little snip, you can get inside and cut that out, because you guys probably have scissors that are a little bit smaller than this. All right, so hopefully this diameter is going to be about the same as the tube that I had. So if I wanted to cover up those slots, all I have to do is take this and slide it down, and I've got a little cover, and it kind of looks like a garden there. Okay, so once I start gluing, okay, I know all of you have used glue before, and you probably did the dot, dot, dot method like this, which is great. But the problem with that is I only have the dot in a little bit of space. So if you have some cardboard, save it, cut you some little pieces, take that cardboard and spread your glue out. Or you can use your fingers, because you know glue just rubs right off. But some people don't like to get glue all over their fingers. So now that I've got pretty good coverage, see how nice and wet that is? Okay. Then when I put this down and rub it, and rubbing is really, really important, because you want to make sure that all of this has good contact with your base. And you can see, I don't know if you noticed, my base was a magazine page. I wanted to cover up that cardboard. Okay. So now I know I've got this on really good. I also had at my house some pattern paper. That was really cool. But if you don't have pattern paper, you can use crayons or markers or paint and make your own pattern paper. Okay. So suppose you don't want to do a flat one. All right. So Miss Libby on her poster has a cone. And this could be a hat, or you could put the flange, cut and fold it out and put it as your base, okay? All you do for this is you cut out a circle, you guesstimate where the center is, you cut to the center, and then you just slide it over. Do you want me to show you how to do that? Give me a thumbs up if you want to see me do that. You guys are busy making stuff. All right. So one more idea, which give me a minute because mine fell on the floor. If you want to do something a little different, you could start with a cube. So this is a cube using rectangles. And I showed you that in the slide, okay? So how many of you have tape at your house that you're going to use? Do you have tape? Give me a thumbs up if you have tape. Thumbs up if you have tape. You have tape? Okay. All right. So let me ask you this. If I want to tape something on, oh, I'm going to tape this on that I made. All right. So I want to tape this little piece on that I made. Can I just stick it on like that? Is that going to work? Yeah, that's 30 minutes. Is that going to work if I just put it on like that? What do I need to do? So I need to rub it, just like the glue. Tape is going to stick really well if you rub it, okay? If you don't rub it, eventually it's just going to peel right off again because air is going to get underneath of it. All right? So let's see if I've covered everything. And like Miss Libby, I also had some supplies at my house. I had some painted papers that I saved. So if you do a painting and you're like, ugh, I don't like that painting, don't throw it away. Cut it up and save it in a scrap box because those are great for making other projects. This is a flyer from a grocery store. This is some pattern paper that I made. And these were boxes from where I cooked, but they have really, you know, nice cardboard that I could do those techniques that Miss Libby showed you. And then just magazine pages. So you don't have to have any special paper. We have a lot of things that come into our houses that are made from paper. I'm sure you guys all get Amazon boxes or anything like that. So save it, save newspapers, magazines, junk mail, anything like that would be great. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop sharing my camera. And I'm going to go back to that last slide. All right, so we want to unmute everybody and see if they have any questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. You want to do that?
They're all unmuted.
All right, ladies. Did we have another person? We had Daniel too, didn't we? Did he leave? All right. Do you girls have any questions? You want to show us what you're already working on? Hold up what you're working on, what you've done so far.
Wow.
Ooh, cool.
It looks like candy.
Oh, look at that. Is that a square or a tube? Black one. Let me see on this side. That's very cool.
Wow.
All right.
How cool.
So, all right. So remember when you're all done to share on social media, Twitter or Instagram, with your parents' help and permission, so that we can see your work. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions that you wanted to ask Miss Livy or myself? Yeah, one friend looks like she's making a mess.
You guys have any ideas of stuff that you're going to use around the house for your sculpture?
I just got a Amazon box out. It's outside right now, so I'm probably gonna use that.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are getting deliveries right now, so there's lots of boxes. So that's awesome.
Well, I know as an artist, I have a hard time throwing boxes away. So I have this little cutter and I just cut them up and I